Hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this stream. Today we're doing something very, very special. Very, very special. See, 25 years ago a game came out. It's not the exact date, let's be honest, but 25 years ago a game came out that pretty much was about as influential in my life as it could be at the time. You see, the NFL was a unique place. I was a brand new fan to the game. I was about, this is 25 years ago. I was about 7, 8 years old. The Patriots had just made it to the Super Bowl. First time in my lifetime I ever saw them. And they looked so good. And obviously they lost the Super Bowl. They lost that year to the Green Bay Packers. However, at that time, my fandom had started at that moment. And one of the first things I wanted to play was football video games, NFL football video games. So, when I got a PlayStation in 1997, late 1997, I got a bunch of different games. And one of them was this game here, NFL Gameday 98. Now, we're going to go through and we're going to look through all this cool stuff, and you can see the coolness of it. Old school intros. Oh my gosh, it might have been. You know what? I'm wrong. Okay, so this is 2 years later. Okay, here's the deal. Because I'm stupid and I don't know what I'm talking about. Madden 96 got canceled because NFL Gameday came out with full 3D polygonal models. Madden 96 was still using sprite-based models, and so Madden felt like they were behind, so they devoted all of their time and effort to creating a new Madden with the 3D models that we know now. At the time, Madden was still not where it is today. Oh man, look at this. Oh boy. Where's the music? Injuries, penalties, low, high. There's a controller set up right here. We've got we've got a couple. Interesting. You could set up the schedule, so they already knew what the schedules may look like in 98, 99, and 2000. Okay, so the buttons are weird here. Alright, so if you don't know, I'm using an emulator. I've got to play around here with the buttons. Select, start, up, down, left, right, A, B, X, Y. That makes no sense. These would not be called A, B, X, Y. Okay. So hold on a sec. I might have to change this around. This might be L R L2 R2 L3. R3. Left stick up. I guess. I don't know. So we'll update that real quick. And what we'll do is... Okay, so that makes sense. That was very similar. Okay, so the game is a little glitchy. I may have to reset the game, that's why. Oh wow, what is going on here? Okay, so this isn't... Let's restart the game. Frame skips, we could do... frame skips? No. Shader, we do some shading. Wow, this is not great. Because if this doesn't work, I'm going to have to reboot it. To skip it, so I don't know what's going on there. I hit X. Let's try this again. Well, we can look at team rosters, so that's kind of interesting. Look at the... Oh, wow. Look at these. Oh, man. This is terrible. Half the buttons on this controller aren't even working. This thing does not pick up the controller at all. Okay, well, I guess we're going old school here, and we're gonna have to use our buttons. Oh, shoot. Alright, so let's look through. We've got a preseason matchup, and we've got a season matchup. What does that mean? Well, one's basically an exhibition game, one's the whole season. You can change your difficulty right here. 4 difficulties, nice. You've got... You can go 1 minute quarters. Oh, wow, we can breeze through this game. That's kind of fun. Let's check out the rosters, though. So they start off with the Packers because at this time, when this game came out, the Packers were the defending world champions. So, and they actually give them, interestingly enough, they actually give them a rating. They give them ratings, which is crazy because I didn't think that they did this at the time, but yeah, they had ratings for them. Look at this. Arm accuracy, arm strength, leg strength. Oh, wow, overall. So, yeah, Brett Favre was coming off of one of his most successful seasons. I think he went on to win the MVP this year as well. So that's interesting, but let's see here. Can we change the team? Can we change the team? Oh, R1. Oh, cool. Okay. Let's see here. Hold on a sec. I gotta figure out what the R1 and L1 buttons were. Q and E. Q and E. Okay. Q and E. And then R and T were L2, R2. Cancel. Okay. Well, Q's not working. So, I don't know what's there. What's happening there. So, this is weird. So, a couple buttons are working on here, but a couple buttons are working on here. So, anyway, let's back out of this real quick. We're going to look at the rosters. Let's start off with... Who's the first team to start off with? Let's see. So, the Bears were the first team in here. Okay. Let's check this out. Their starting quarterback at the time was Rick Mirer. Oh, wow. Interesting. Did they have anybody of any real names in here? Anybody who went on to be, like, really good? I don't see anybody who went on to be truly great. I don't even see any coaches. Usually that's what happens is you see the coaches, too. But there's no coaches on here. Let's see. I had Ricky Prohl on this team. Ricky Prohl was pretty decent. He scored 2 touchdowns against the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Both in the first Super Bowl he played was 2001. Played for the Rams, and then he played for the Panthers in Super Bowl. Is that 38? Yeah, 38. So Super Bowl 36 and 38. Scored a touchdown in both those games. Wasn't a big name, but hey, he was there, which is pretty cool. Let's see here. And Brian Cox. Brian Cox was a pretty popular player at the time. You know, he was pretty good. Let's see here. No one else really sticks out on that team. No big names, at least. Check this out. In NFL Gameday 98, Boomer Esiason was still playing football. He was on the 1997-98 Bengals. Are you kidding me? He was only rated a 70. But that's pretty crazy, and you know how popular he is right now. Check this out. This is kind of interesting. This is a really interesting roster because check this out. Eric Bieniemy, he is the current offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's a really good player. He's done an amazing job. This game has him starting over Corey Dillon, who at one time owned the record for the most rushing yards in a single game. It's since been broken. We know this. Adrian Peterson owns the record now. But that is so interesting. This must have been an early Corey Dillon for him to only be rated a 78 and for Eric Bieniemy to be rated above him. That's crazy. That's crazy. And look at his number. He's only number 4. When did that? Oh, my God. I think his number ended up being like 28. I think it was. Can't remember the exact number, but it was in the 20s. I remember that. But that's so interesting to see his name in there. Let's see who else is on this team. I don't see any other big time names for their time. I remember Sam Shade from this game because I thought he had a cool name. But that's the only thing I remember him from this game. I don't actually know anything about him or if he was any good or not. Oh, wow. So that's interesting. I'm crazy to see that Bieniemy is actually still with the NFL. Corey Dillon was obviously one of the best backs in the history at the time. He was a feature back. He's not in the Hall of Fame. Don't know why, but maybe he just didn't have the numbers. The Bills. Interesting. Here we go with the Bills. So these Bills are the leftovers from the 4 Super Bowl run team with like Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas, who's still actually on the team. Check this out. Thurman Thomas was still on the team at this time. Todd Collins was the quarterback. I don't know who Todd Collins is, but he's there. I think that's Akili Smith. I'd love to be able to... I wish I could see their first names, because I think that is Akili Smith. Not Akili Smith. God. I think he was the one who went to be the running back for the Patriots during their first and their second Super Bowl runs. This is such an interesting, team, because check this out. They still got some, pretty big names from those early days. They still got Andre Reed, who was playing. He obviously at this point wasn't the same Andre Reed, but he was still there. I remember Eric Moulds was there. Steve Tasker, they gave him a 63 overall, but Steve Tasker was still a really good player at one point in time for them. Let's see. Bruce Smith is still on this team. Bruce Smith he's in the Hall of Fame. I think he owns the record for the most sacks in a career, if I'm not mistaken. He was that good. So he was really high up there. Let's see. Oh, I'm pressing the wrong buttons. That's why. Let's see. Was there anybody else from these teams that was really good? I mean, Jeff Burris was on there as an 86 overall, as you can see. They'd Spielman, the linebacker, at 84. They still had a solid defense behind them. They just lacked on the offensive side. You know, their offense was starting to get old, unfortunately. So the Broncos, these guys, the Denver Broncos went on to win the Super Bowl for the 97-98 year. They beat the Green Bay Packers. But we're going to look through their roster real quick and see who was on this team, because we know this team was pretty loaded when they would go on to win back-to-back Super Bowls. This season's interesting, though, because their first Super Bowl that they won this year, the Kansas City Chiefs actually were the division winners. So they were a wild card team who went on to, I think they actually beat Kansas City in the, it wasn't the AFC Championship game. In the divisional round, they beat them in the divisional round pretty handily. But we can look at their roster and see kind of who they are. This is probably a throwback for the Broncos fans out there who remember these teams, but obviously John Elway, starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos. This is his penultimate year. Next year would be his final year as a player. But he's a 92 overall in this game, which is pretty good. Pretty good at all. Pretty good. Yeah. Let's see here. We've got Terrell Davis. I'm not sure if it was this year or the next year where he broke the 2,000-yard rusher. Blah, blah, blah. Where he broke the 2,000-yard rushing mark. I believe it was the next year. But I could be wrong on that one. This team had... Let's see here. Rod Smith was a pretty good wide receiver for them. They actually did really good with him. Shannon Sharp's on the team. Shannon Sharp is obviously a Hall of Famer, probably the best 7th-round draft pick ever made by any team. Jason Elam, who, by the way, Jason Elam was still kicking all the way until the mid-2010s at some point. I remember seeing his name pop up, so he had some longevity from this game. Their defense was pretty. Look at their defensive numbers; they were pretty good. They had Bill Romanowski on this team. Interestingly enough, if you don't remember, Bill Romanowski, famous for being kind of cheap. He played for the Raiders a lot longer than he played for the Broncos, but he played for the Broncos towards the end. But he was really, really a good player. But they're pretty loaded on there. No names I see other than that are like, oh my god, blow me away. Other than the few offensive players that were really good, Shannon Sharp, John Elway, Terrell Davis, Rod Stewart did pretty good. You had Bill Romanowski. Take a look at this. This is the Buccaneers of 1997. Tony Dungy's team. You could see Trent Dilfer was the quarterback. Trent Dilfer. Wow. I think this was Warwick Dunn's rookie year. I believe this was his rookie season. So when he appeared in here, he was just a young pup. Mike Allstott's on the team. If you don't remember, Mike Allstott at one point was one of the... when they won the Super Bowl in 2002, he was up there as one of the top fullbacks ever. At the time. They used to hand him the ball at 1 yard situations. He would always go in. He was a big, bruising, really good at blocking. I wonder what his blocking stats are. Because, you see his blocking's a 71. So he was really good at blocking for work done and such. Who else is on this team? It doesn't tell me. Interestingly enough, it doesn't tell me anything like years of experience or anything like that. So, kind of interested there to see how many guys. This team clearly had a young Warren Sapp because they only rated him a 75. Warren Sapp, a 75. His pass rush was a 78. Wow. He must not have exploded yet. This must have been the early years. I mean, they have Derek Brooks on this team. This team was loaded. Look at this. Derek Brooks, another Hall of Famer. Who else is on this team? John Lynch is on this team. If you don't know, John Lynch is now the GM of the San Francisco 49ers. Oh my god. This team had a lot of good players. Probably no one knew it at the time, but this team was about ready to make a real run at this thing. I don't see a few of the players that I remember from that team on here, but I see a lot of them. It's crazy to think about how, and basically, I think this would have been 5 years. 5 years later, this team would have win a Super Bowl with a lot of these players on the team. The Cardinals are in the game. Jake Plummer. If you don't know, Jake Plummer ended up being the starter, and he's also a starter for the Denver Broncos. Pretty dang good player for his time. Wasn't the greatest player. Definitely not a Hall of Famer or anything like that, but I would definitely say pretty good. Kent Graham was the starter, though. And, judging by it, I don't know who he is either. Let's see. Was there anybody on this team of note? I'm not seeing anybody of note here. Some decent players, They had a pretty good... I guess Frank Sanders was rated pretty high in this game. He must have been a pretty good receiver for his time. I don't remember anybody talking about him, though, so... there's that. Let's see here. This team was... Oh, my gosh. This team is not good. Jeff Fiegels. I do remember punter Jeff Fiegels. He stayed around the league for a while. Simeon Rice. Wow, Simeon Rice was on this team. That's crazy. No names, though. Not really a whole lot of... Not really a whole lot of names on that team, unfortunately. They did not... they were not a good team at this time. They were pretty poor. Here we go. The San Diego Chargers. So, this is so great. This is a great time to talk about this. This is the 1997 season. The San Diego Chargers will end up being the second worst team in the league this year, behind only the Colts. They draft Ryan Leaf. This team does not have Ryan Leaf on. This game does not have Ryan Leaf in the game, but Ryan Leaf was drafted by this Chargers team in the draft after this season. This team is probably up there as really, really bad, or at least looking by this. It's funny because the numbers don't say that they're really bad, but like it's very clear they're a bad team. Like Sam Humphries 81. It's funny because Humphries started their Super Bowl against the 49ers like 2 years before this game would have been available, right? The 95, that 94-95, yeah, 94-95 against the but yeah, so this team was not like in a bad spot. It's just that I don't know what it is, they were bad. They were very bad during this season. I'm looking for players that would have been part of it. Eric Metcalf. Eric Metcalf is a name that's very familiar. I've heard his name a couple times. I think he's a coach now, but I'm not sure. I like the name Freddie Jones. I don't know who Freddie Jones is. I don't know if he was actually playing or not. This team's had Junior Seau. Oh, wow. Interesting. This team had Junior Seau on the team. That is so crazy. Look at how good, like, that's crazy to think that Junior Seau was on the Chargers at this time. I thought it was a couple years later, but I was wrong. Rodney Harrison's on this team, too. Rodney Harrison ended up being a pretty big deal for the Patriots, you know, and if you're a Patriots hater, you know, he was the one that you can make fun of for letting David Tyree catch the helmet catch that ended the perfect season. So, unfortunately, he bears that weight with him all the time. But, yeah, not a lot of options here. They have a really good center, an 85 overall center. That's interesting. But their offensive line's kind of average at best. Rodney Harrison on the back end, big deal. Big deal. That's so crazy to think that's what that team was. All right, so this is fun. This is fun. We're gonna get a look at the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, like I said, they won their division this year. I should actually pull up. I don't know why I don't have it pulled up, but I should have the information for this season pulled up so I can do a little bit more, arm myself and arm you guys with a little bit more info. Let me see real quick. Let's see here. Oh gosh, I'm getting blown up all of a sudden. So let's go back over real quick just to make sure, just to say the names of the teams. We started off with the Bears. The Bears went 4-12 this year. The 1997 season, it was a disastrous year for them. Let's see, who was the next one? The Bengals, I think, right? The Bengals went 7-9, so they actually did a pretty decent job, all things considered. Let's talk about the Bucks. That Bucks team went 10-6. So, and they were actually the 4th seed. So they played pretty dang good and got themselves into the playoffs and were actually like right there. Let's see here. Who else did we talk about? The Broncos, 12-4. Already told you they won the Super Bowl that year, but they lost out to these guys, believe it or not. The Bills actually went 6-10 that year. Did not have a good season at all. Who else? The Chargers were 4-12. So they actually tied with a couple different teams. The Oakland Raiders also went 4-12 that year. The Cardinals went 4-12 that year. I'm guessing that San Diego's just won a couple points to get them to the number 2 overall pick. But the Colts were 3-13. So when you see we get to the Colts, you'll see them. The Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals were another 4-12 team. They were abysmal that year. Let's see. I think we're on to the Chiefs, right? Uh-oh. Ah, shoot. Hold on. I can't believe my buttons are not working. Yeah, we're here. So, anyway, let's go over this again. So Elvis Garback was their starter, but Rich Gannon was the journeyman. This is when Rich Gannon was still a journeyman quarterback. So I don't know if John Gruden was signed, because John Gruden was a big fan of Rich Gannon and turned him around and got him an MVP. He won the MVP in 2002. It's crazy to believe that you could see him here as a backup quarterback on a pretty decent Kansas City team. But yeah, Elvis Grbac was the starter for the team. Got great Marcus. Is that Marcus Allen? The Marcus Allen was on this Kansas City Chiefs team. That's crazy. Andre Rison. You don't know who Andre Rison is? He was a very popular player for his time. Is that Brandon Perryman? Another guy who went on to be, I think, a coach, because his name comes up every now and then. Look at how many wide receivers this team had. Look at this. They had Joe Horn on the team. Remember Joe Horn from the New Orleans Saints? It was their number 1 receiver for a while, and he had the celebration with the flip phone that later went on, like Michael Thomas used in a game a couple years ago. This team had Tony Gonzalez, and Tony Gonzalez was only rated a 78. Wow. This guy, they had a Hall of Famer in their back pocket. Wow. Who else was on this team? I'm interested to find out, because this team seems loaded. Derek Thomas was on this team. Derek Thomas has to be one of the best linebackers to ever play the game. Oh my God, I can't believe Derek Thomas was on this team. We had some pretty good names here. Believe it or not, their line is pretty stout. Now here come the Colts. The Colts. 2 years before this Colts team was in the playoffs in the AFC Championship game and almost beat the Pittsburgh Steelers to go to the Super Bowl. So, who is on this team? The quarterback is Jim Harbaugh. He's the current coach for the Michigan football team. Michigan Wolverine, the University of Michigan. So, super interesting. This team had Marshall Faulk on it. Marshall Faulk had not been traded yet to the Rams. Wow. How did this team went 3-13 and they had Marshall Faulk on the team? Crazy. Well, yeah, I can see now why they didn't. There's like no Marvin Harrison was on this team. Marvin Harrison is a Hall of Fame wide receiver, but he was so young at this point. This might have been his rookie year, or maybe a year before, or maybe his second year in the league total. Obviously Peyton Manning comes along and they become easily one of the best quarterback wide receiver combos in the league. Who else was on this team? This team wasn't like, it's about as average. Like, Richard Dent is on the team, but this is like old Richard Dent. He's like almost done. Let's see. Anybody of any name, quality. Nah, no one else. Wow. What a team. And here are the Cowboys. The Cowboys. So all the Cowboys fans will pop up in here, I'm sure. Troy Aikman was the starter at the time. He was a 3-time Super Bowl winner at this point. This team was really really good. Look at this. They were still competing at this point. Like, you could tell just by their stats, or at least at the very least, they think that they were still good. Jason Garrett's on this team. He, obviously was the coach for the Dallas Cowboys for years, and now he's a backup coach somewhere else. You can see Emmitt Smith with a 93 overall. That's one of the highest ratings I've seen in this game so far. So he was definitely one of the best. You could see that. I don't know if this is Herschel Walker, but if this is Herschel Walker, that's hilarious. That Herschel Walker was the fullback for the Cowboys in 1997. Herschel Walker's, we're not going to get into a conversation about him. Let's just leave it at that. Michael Irving. Michael Irving was on this team. Michael Irving is very famous for how he talks and the NFL and stuff like that. So him being in the game, he was still in the game at this time. I think that's Derek Ware. Is it supposed to be DeMarcus Ware? No, it can't be, right? No, he's a tight end. That's a different position. That's interesting though that they had somebody with the name Ware on their roster. Let's see. Leon Lett was still on this team, so he was doing a pretty good job. Who else? Deion Sanders was still on the team. He's actually got a 95 overall. They were still, in 1997, Deion Sanders was still considered the best cornerback in the league. One of the, tops. I don't know if he was the best, but he was definitely up there. Oh my gosh. And no one else I could see right off the bat. The Dolphins are in this game. And the Dolphins have Dan Marino. Dan Marino was really, really good. Dan Marino is a Hall of Famer. I want you to look at their halfback real quick. It says K. Abdul-Jabbar. Let me see something. It is not the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but it certainly could have been someone named after Kareem Abdul-Jabbar because, oh my gosh, they actually had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on this team. He was not considered great. This is not Dan Marino's last season. This is 2 years before his last season. His last season was 99. So he was still on the team here. I don't know. Do they give you his age? They don't give you age here. They just give you height. So he was still on here. Let's see. Anybody of any name that was still on these teams? Jason Taylor's on the team. Jason Taylor is on the Miami Dolphins in 1997. He must have been a rookie at that point. Zach Thomas is on the team. Zach Thomas was really popular for them for a while. Larry Izzo. I remember Larry Izzo from the New England Patriots. He famously, his muscle detached and kind of went right up his arm, and he was unable to play football ever again. You've got some names. I wish I could see all of their names, because some of them I want to say I know their name, but I don't know them. But yeah. Alright, so Philadelphia Eagles. Let's take a look at the Philadelphia Eagles, shall we? By the way, that Cowboys team went 6-10 and did not make the playoffs, which is crazy to me. That team went 6-10. They must have been dealing with some serious injuries. That Miami Dolphins team did make the playoffs. They were 9-7 that year. They were the only other team to make the playoffs from the AFC East. Interestingly, the AFC put 2 teams from each division in the playoffs. That's just how the seeding worked. But yeah, that's pretty cool. But let's take a look at the Eagles. The Eagles were a 6-9-1 team. They actually had a tie that year. Interestingly enough, their quarterback was Ty Detmer. Oh my gosh, I feel bad for Eagles fans. They were just waiting. Ricky Watters is on the team. Ricky Watters was really good for his time. Irving Fryer, if you don't remember Irving Fryer famously was actually a player for the Patriots. He was drafted, I believe, number 1 overall by the Patriots in like 1980 something, and was really a good player for the Pats, but wasn't like good enough. Realistically, he didn't do enough to continue, and they let him go. He went down to Miami, and then he went to the Eagles and did really well for both teams. But, you know, interestingly enough there. Mark Ingram, now, interesting. I think this is Mark Ingram, the one that you probably, if you're watching this, know from Alabama. This is probably his father, because I remember his father played in the NFL as well. I think he did play wide receiver, so if that is true, cool, awesome, love that. Let's see who else is on here. This team does not have Reggie White. He had already left. Let's see here. Darren Smith, linebacker, pretty good. Troy Vincent was on here. If you don't know Troy Vincent is, I believe, the NFL's like person for dealing with player intent and like levying out fines and stuff with the actual NFL itself. So interesting there. Brian Dawkins is on this team. Brian Dawkins was very famous as a player. He ended up going to the Super Bowl with them in their 2005 season. So good on him for sticking around that long. But there you go. On to the Falcons. The Falcons, I believe, if I'm right. Yeah, the Falcons went 7-9 this year. This is the year before they went to the Super Bowl. So they had some players on here. I love to see this. Chris Chandler was the starter. He was 81 overall, which is fine. But Tommy Maddox is in here on this team. If you don't know who Tommy Maddox is, he was like the MVP of the XFL for its one season back in 2001. But he's probably known to Pittsburgh fans as the guy who Ben Roethlisberger replaced. He got hurt in the game. Ben Roethlisberger came in, and the rest is history. Ben Roethlisberger took that position, never let it go, and Tommy Maddox never played. I don't think he ever played another down again. But this team is not loaded. They were not special, but they somehow managed to eke out, I believe, the 7 wins. So this team must have been good enough. Let's see here. I'm getting all sorts of notifications. This team is not loaded at all. There is nobody on here of any name recognition. They've got players in the 60s. Yeah, this might have been a young team at the time, just needing that one extra year. Because the next year they go on to win the Super Bowl, or not win the Super Bowl, win the NFC over the Minnesota Vikings, who were 15-1 that year with like one of the highest powered offenses at the time. Well, on to the San Francisco 49ers. Steve Young is still in the game. This, I believe, is his final season. I can't be sure about that. I didn't look it up. But I'm fairly certain, I believe, that he loses to... It's either this year or it's the next year. I think it's the next year. So this year he loses out to... No, wait. No, yeah, I think so. I think it's the next year. The next year they played Atlanta. San Francisco played Atlanta after they knocked out Green Bay. And then he got hurt in the game, and that was it. He was done. So that's interesting. Let's see here. Who's on this team? Anybody of any, like, importance? Oh, the GOAT wide receiver Jerry Rice is on this team. I mean, you can't take that away. And Terrell Owens is on here too. A young Terrell Owens, who's clearly not at that level that he would get to later on with like Madden and stuff, but he's in here. Wow. Can you imagine if you could have gotten both of those guys in their prime on this team? Their offense would have been unstoppable. How are you going to stop Jerry Rice, the best wide receiver ever, the most crisp route runner, the best catcher, the best runner, and then Terrell Owens, who is just one of the most physical wide receivers you've ever seen. That is a massive, massive team right there. Gary Anderson, this guy played for like 20-something years. He was always around. He was hanging around for a long, long time, I'm telling you. He played for a bunch of different teams. Let's see here. Their defense is really good. Bryant Young, I remember the name at the time. Haven't seen much about him, so don't know much after that, but definitely one of the more popular ones at the time. He was a good player. Jim Schwartz is in the game. Oh, that's not Jim Schwartz. That's Jim Schwantz. My bad. Is that Rod Woodson? Rod Woodson's on the team, which is interesting because I would have thought Rod Woodson wouldn't have been in the game, but I guess he is. Let's see here. No one else really making a big name on the team. They had a good offensive line, though. Now, that team actually... Where are you? This team, this San Francisco team, went 13-3 and was the number 1 seed in the NFC, right? So Green Bay was they tied with Green Bay. They won out in a tiebreaker. So they were a really good team at this time. Let's see here. We've got the Giants with the old school Giants logo. So originally, New York Giants had a bunch of different logos, but the one that everyone knows now is the NY. It was an old logo. They switched to this when they moved to the Meadowlands because they were no longer in New York, and then they switched back. So that that happened. They were not good. Clearly, they were not a good team at all. But I'm lying to you about that because as bad as it looks like they are, actually won their division. They went 10-5-1 and won the division that year. So they had something going on. They must have been good somewhere. They had Tiki Barber, interestingly enough. He was a rookie that year. But their quarterback was David Brown. Whew. I don't even know who that is. That's how... I wonder if they had just had I wonder if... I don't know. I don't know. Don't know. Is that Terrence Wheatley? That might be. I can't see the whole name. I'm looking. Amani Toomer was on this team. If you remember Amani Toomer went on to be part of the 2007 Patriots team that won or 2007 Giants team that beat the Patriots. Crazy how long some guys had longevity in the league. This team had 2 punters at the time. Whenever this roster was made, I'm sure they were just getting the regular roster that was there. They didn't do anything to modify it or any of that. And if you're wondering, at the time there were no roster updates. You can just buy a roster update. It would have been cool to take your memory card and at least go get an update for these games, but unfortunately that wasn't popular at the time. Michael Strahan's on this team. This is right around the time he's probably a rookie or maybe a second-year player. But, we all obviously know who Michael Strahan is, one of the best defensive ends of all time. Went on to be absolutely... He outside of the football world, he's very, very famous now. He's really put himself out there. He's a good speaker and everything. People like talking to him. So, he's done good for himself. But this team was not stacked. Not stacked at all. Where did they get all that winning from? I'm curious. Their division was garbage, though. That division was not good. I believe, only one team in that division had a winning record outside of the Giants, and that was the Washington football team. So here we go, the Jags. The Jags were fresh off an AFC Championship game when this game out. They lost to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. This team is still coached by, what's his name? Oh, shoot. Anyway, he was, he's the one who beat Tom Coughlin. Tom Coughlin's the one who beat, the Patriots in the Super Bowl, all that stuff. So Tom Coughlin was still coaching here. But as you can see, the names on this team was pretty stacked, right? Mark Brunell was their quarterback. No Fred Taylor at the time, which is interesting. But they had Keaton McCardell. Jimmy Smith should be in the Hall of Fame. Jimmy Smith is one of the best wide receivers of his day. I don't know what he didn't get enough love. I think it's probably because he played for the Jags. It must have been, but he was definitely one of the best wide receivers of his time. They had a pretty good receiving offense. Let's see here. Anyone else of any notes? I think this team. Bucky Brooks. I love that. That's such a generic, weird name. Tony Baselli, down here on the offensive tackle position, is in the Hall of Fame. He just got in the Hall of Fame now. His career was cut short from injury, but he was put in the Hall of Fame. So he's obviously one of the best players. Certainly, he's the first Jaguar to ever go in the Hall of Fame. So you need any more information than that? There you go. One of the greats. This Jets team was 9-7. 9-7. Neil O'Donnell. Oh, God. Lorenzo Neal was on this team. I don't know if you remember Lorenzo Neal, but he had been bouncing around the league for a while. He was like a big-time fullback who could block. I believe his blocking ability was... Yeah, his blocking ability is pretty good. But he must have been a rookie at this time. Wayne Corbett. You don't know who Wayne Corbett is. Wayne Corbett was one of the toughest wide receivers ever. So if you ever chance him, he's really good. This team has number 19, Kay Johnson. He was a rookie this year. If you don't know who Kay Johnson is, that's Keyshawn Johnson. He was the last wide receiver ever picked at number 1 in a draft. Keyshawn Johnson, they only gave him an 81 overall, but Keyshawn Johnson for them was really good. Ended up winning a Super Bowl with the Bucks later on. Was one of their best players. But he was really good for this team. Without him, I don't know where they would have been. I don't know if they would have won 7 games. But this team, not a lot of great players. This team is interesting because Bill Parcells coached the Patriots the year before, got him to the Super Bowl. This team is now coached by Bill Parcells. He left the Patriots to go coach the Jets. So this team was not a good team this year, but would end up being a good team later on, actually making the AFC Championship game 2 years later. Yeah, there's not a lot of big time names on this team. They were building towards it. The Lions, interestingly enough, you want to know a great story about the Lions? They made the playoffs this year with a 9-7 record. They had made the playoffs. Frank Reich is on this team. Frank Reich is the current coach for the Colts. So that's pretty cool. Barry Sanders is in the game. Barry hadn't quite yet retired. Barry Sanders is one of the best ever. Let's see. Ron Rivers. I wanted to think it was somebody else, but it wasn't. Let's see here. This team did a pretty good job making it all the way to the playoffs. They're not really loaded anywhere. They're just kind of average. Yeah, they made it, though. Good for them. The Oilers. All right, so, interesting about this game. They call them the Tennessee Oilers. They had just moved to Tennessee this year. They had not yet changed their name to the Titans. So they are the Tennessee Oilers. They play at a... I don't know where it was, but it was like a university, one of the universities their thing. Steve McNair, young pup here, 78 overall. He was their best player. He was probably their starter. 3 years later, he would go on to be in the Super Bowl, having just lost to the Rams in the Super Bowl on the famous 1-yard play. And he would end up being a co-MVP with Peyton Manning a couple years after that. So pretty good on him. This team has Eddie George. Eddie George at one time was one of the best runners. I think he won a Heisman Trophy. He was that good. Let's see. Who else is here? This team is not loaded. This team is not a very good. Frank Wycheck. I know who Frank Wycheck is because I've heard his name quite a few times. He was a pretty good player for his time, but this must have been early on in his career. I think he went on to the Jets and did really well with them. I think that's him. Could be wrong. They have a guy named Henry Ford on the team. Think any relation? Oh, man, that's fun. This team didn't have a whole lot of really great players. So, they were in the process of moving. This team was fresh and new. Jeff Fisher was just coaching them. So, there we go. Now we've gotten to the Packers. We've seen kind of the Packers. Interestingly enough, Doug Peterson, current coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he coached the Eagles to the Super Bowl and beat the Patriots. He was in this game as a backup. He was still here. He was in the game. Let's see who else was on there. Antonio Freeman. Robert Brooks and Antonio Freeman were really, really good. Don Beebe was part of the Bills for a Super Bowl run. If you didn't watch that documentary, very popular. Let's see who else was on here. Reggie White. As you can see, Reggie White, defensive end for the Green Bay Packers at the time, 94 overall, one of the best to ever do it. Nobody could stop him. Craig Newsome, pretty good. I wonder if they have. Trying to look through. I know. Leroy Butler was on this team. That's interesting. I didn't know he was there at this time. That's cool. Good for him. Yeah, but that's interesting. Steve Bono. I remember the name, but I don't think he did anything anywhere. Look at the Panthers. Now, the Panthers were another team that was they were an expansion team, but they were good, good enough. They were 7-9 that year, but they were competing, They weren't a pushover by any stretch of the imagination. Their quarterback at the time was Kerry Collins. Kerry Collins was ended up taking the Giants to the Super Bowl a couple years later and was pretty damn solid as a NFL player. Obviously not a Hall of Famer or anything like that, but what can you do, right? Let's see. Who else is on this? Mushin Muhammad. I remember him. This must have been his early year. He was in a couple of Maddens I played later on. Really pretty good player. Who else was on this team? Sam Mills is on this team. Sam Mills literally just went into the Hall of Fame. That's how good a player he was. He defied all expectations. He kept going. So there you go with that one. Let's see here. Oh. Not a whole lot of players outside though. Like I said, a 7-9 team isn't going to have too many stars, obviously, unless one of them is a breakout. We go with the Patriots. That's my team. Anyway, so check it out. This team was in the Super Bowl the year before, defending AFC champions. They ended up winning the division that year. After a change of coach, they went 10-6, won the division. This team was still pretty loaded from their Super Bowl winning team the year before. This team had Drew Bledsoe as the quarterback with a 90 overall here. One of the best players, and I'm gonna say it right now. Tom Brady did a whole lot of great for the Patriots, but it wouldn't have happened if Drew Bledsoe didn't start off the winning culture in New England. Right? He changed the culture in New England to a winning culture, and so when Bill Belichick and Tom Brady took over, they weren't a loser franchise. They were a good franchise that had to make its way to the next level. This team still had Curtis Martin. Curtis Martin would leave the next year, so interesting, but he was really good. I think he made it into the Hall of Fame, but I'm not sure. Sam Gash, I remember Sam Gash. He was a pretty good fullback. This team had Terry Glenn. Oh wow, Troy Brown was on this team. I forgot that Troy Brown had been there forever. But yeah, Troy Brown was on this team. He was pretty good. Terry Glenn was a wide receiver the Patriots had drafted. He did really good job in this offense. But it is what it is, unfortunately, he was never going to be in this. He never got to that next level that he should have probably gotten to. Ben Coates is on here. Ben Coates was one of the greatest tight ends in Patriot history. So if you care about Patriots history, he's there. Adam Vinatieri is on that team. We all know who Adam Vinatieri is. Hall of Fame kicker when he gets in. Willie McGinnis. Willie McGinnis should be in the Hall of Fame. One of the best players. I think he has the most postseason sacks in history. Of all the players that have played in postseason games, he has more sacks than anybody in postseason history. So he's on this team. Really good player. Should be in the Hall of Fame, but he's not. This team's defense was pretty decent as far as defensive ends and stuff go. Their defense was legit. Who else was on this? Chris Slade. I remember Chris Slade. Chris Slade was pretty good. Ted Johnson's on this team. Todd Collins on this team. Teddy Bruschi. Teddy Bruschi's a Patriots legend if you're a Patriots fan here. Teddy Bruschi was pretty dang good. Really good. Ty Law. Ty Law's in the Hall of Fame. That's how good Ty Law was. Let's see here. Who else was on this team? Lawyer Malloy. I remember Lawyer Malloy as he was part of the first Patriots Super Bowl winner. But in his season, the 2003 season, he was let go the day before the season, and the Patriots went on to win. So if you ever see Bill Belichick make moves like that, just remember, that's what happens. But yeah, that was a pretty good team. That team was loaded. They won 10 games that year in a pretty tough conference. Like I said, the team that won the Super Bowl didn't even win their division. So really tough conference. They did a good job that year. Let's look at this. Woo boy. The Oakland Raiders. The Oakland Raiders went 4-12. But if I'm right here, believe it or not, quarterback Jeff George led the league in passing yards this year. He had 3,917 passing yards in 1997. So they were a passing unit. They just could not get out of their own way. They couldn't finish it off. Tim Brown was on this team. If you remember Tim Brown was one of the best receivers ever. A really solid player. I used to pick him up a lot of times in Madden franchises and stuff because he was so good. But not a whole lot of great players on this team. Let's see here. Yeah, not too many players. Unfortunately, this team was not a very good team. They won 4 games. 4 games total. They were not good at all. They would end up drafting, I think, of all the 4-12 teams, I think they were the last ones to draft. Either them or the Cardinals. Can't remember. Let's look at the Rams. The Rams are the defending Super Bowl champions here in 2022, but in Madden 1990s, in NFL Gameday 97, they were not a good team. They ended up finishing this season 5-11. Whoo! Not a good team at all. I don't even know if there's any players of any redeeming quality. Listen to this. This is so this is 2 years later. They're going to win the Super Bowl. This Rams team is. They had Isaac Bruce on this team from 2 years later. So they had players. They just were not good yet. Let's see. Do they have the Super Bowl hero on here? I doubt it, but... I think it was Mike Jones. Wasn't it Mike Jones who saved the game? It might have been. I don't know. But I don't recognize any names. Roman Pfeiffer played for the Pats at one point in time. I only know that because, again, Madden. But not a whole lot of great names here, unfortunately. One of their players is OT Rookie OT. They didn't even have the rookie's name in the game for their offensive rookie tackle. And if I'm right, let me see here because I want to see this. I want to see this real quick because I think I know who this is. If I'm right. So, I am right. Offensive tackle, rookie offensive tackle, is none other than Hall of Fame player Orlando Pace. Orlando Pace was one of the best players on the offensive line. He's in the game. He's listed as what's it called? Just a generic player name, so they don't even have his name. I think he was a rookie in this year. Let me see real quick. Yeah, he was a rookie, obviously. But yeah, he was on this team. Orlando Pace is one of the greatest to ever play offensive line and ended up being a Hall of Famer and all that good jazz. I think he was unanimous in everything. The Ravens. So, if you don't know the story, this is shortly after the Cleveland Browns have moved. I think this is their second year in Baltimore. That logo is not their logo anymore. This and the previous game are the only ones that have this logo for the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens logo, someone sued them and they changed the logo to make it work better for them. Just an interesting little story, but that is not actually the Baltimore Ravens logo, but it was a cool logo nonetheless. Let's take a look at this team, though. Jamal Lewis. Is that Jamal Lewis? I hope that's Jamal Lewis playing wide receiver. Wouldn't make any sense, but, you know, hey. Matt Stover. Matt Stover was a pretty good kicker for a long time. Tony Saragusa. He was on his biggest moments were being on NFL on Fox. He was really like a bombastic character, which is pretty good for him. Let's see here. Ray Lewis is on this team, but I think this is only his second season. So there you go. They have rookie linebacker. If I'm right, that is... Gosh, who is that? I'm going to have to look that up. Give me a second. This Ravens team was 6-9, by the way, and with one tie. Can you believe that? They actually tied somebody. That's crazy. Let's see here. Let's see here, because I seen that, and now I want to know who that is. 55. If I'm right... Wow. No, that was not who I think it was. So, that is a player called Jamie Sharper. Jamie Sharper... He was the older brother of Darren Sharper, but he was not, in there. What the heck? Wait a minute. What is going on here? So look at this. Jamie Sharper is in the game, but his number is 32. His real number is not 32. It's 55. Hmm. That's interesting. I don't know who this linebacker is. It could be... It might be Tyro Peters or Tyrus McLeod. Or maybe Cornell Brown. Maybe? I don't know. I don't know who that is. Honestly, I have no idea. But he's in the game. He got a paycheck. So, Jonathan Ogden is in the game. He's a young player at this point, but he is obviously one of the greats on the offensive line. Orlando Brown did pretty good too. I recognize his name. But not much going for them. Again, this was a team that moved. It had a whole bunch of different issues going on, so obviously. The Washington football team is the next team. Washington did pretty good. They were 8-7-1, so they had a tie with somebody. They did have a positive winning record, though, so that's good. Washington had Gus Frerotte as their starting quarterback and Jeff Hostetler. You don't know who Jeff Hostetler is? Jeff Hostetler orchestrated probably, without a doubt, the greatest playoff comeback ever. I'm a Pats fan. Greatest Super Bowl comeback ever is 28-3. But Jeff Hostetler was there for the Bills against the Oilers, and I think that was like 33-point comeback. It's the largest comeback ever, and I think it's probably the greatest comeback ever in any sense. But anyway, yes, Jeff Hostetler is in the game, and he's only 1 point below Gus Frerotte, which is hilarious. Trent Green, if you don't remember Trent Green's most famous for being the guy who got hurt to allow Kurt Warner to take over and lead the Rams to the Super Bowl. He won the, obviously that was the year that Kurt Warner won the MVP. Terry Allen's on this team. Terry Allen was interesting because he was a really good running back for his time, but he wasn't that good. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe people are going to tell me I'm not. I think this team had Lito Shepherd as a wide receiver. Lito Shepherd was pretty decent. Who else is on this team? Anyone of any noticeable? No one of any noticeable names, really. The Saints are in here. Their quarterback was Heath Schuler. Poor guys. They were not good. Danny Warfel was a Heisman Trophy winner and also led Florida to one of its 3 national championships or something. I only know that because I live in Florida, so I know his name. Who was on this team? Is there anybody from... I don't expect anybody from their Super Bowl winning team to be on here, but there's got to be at least something here. No one really. The Saints were not, the Saints were not good for a while. They were a really average team for a long time. A couple years later, they would end up beating the Rams in the playoffs in the wild card round, and that was the highlight for a long time of the Saints. They were not a good team at all. We've got the Seahawks in the game. Look at this. Warren Moon is in the game, but Warren Moon is a backup to John Friese. Warren Moon, if you don't know, is probably the greatest undrafted player ever. Should have been drafted. Let's get that right. He wasn't drafted for a very specific reason, and we won't go into it too political here, but I think you know where I'm going with this. There's a reason he wasn't drafted, and it's kind of a shitty reason. Chris Warren was pretty good at the time. I remember his name getting bounced around a lot. Joey Galloway. If you don't know Joey Galloway, he's on ESPN for the college football all the time. But Joey Galloway, pretty dang good player at one point in time. Christian Foria, he ended up being on the Patriots team that would win the Super Bowl. Let's see here. They have a guy named Sam Adams. You know, I love the beer, so I had to point that out. There's no one's going to be here from their Super Bowl winning team, without a doubt. But they have a cornerback. Who is rookie cornerback? I'm interested in seeing that. I always love these games because sometimes some things happen. Have you ever watched some of the videos from old school Maddens where they have players who don't have their names in the game? And so you always kind of want to figure out who they were. So, I want to preface this by saying that there isn't this is the 28 teams, I believe. Yes, there's 28 teams in the NFL at this time. So, some things are going to be a little different. Seattle Seahawks, for example, were an 8-8 team, but they did not play in the NFC West like we know them today. They were actually in the AFC West. And let's see here. I want to see who cornerback 24 is. Sean Springs. So, don't know what that was about, but Sean Springs is in the game as a cornerback. I also have a rookie tackle who's in the game. What is number 76 offensive lineman? He might not have been. So, I don't know who that is as far as H. Beller, G. Williams, Robert Barr. Interestingly enough, I think that is Walter Jones. It just says offensive tackle, but I think that's the only one. He played 13 seasons for them, so he was probably a pretty good pickup. Kevin Mawai is on this team. If you don't know who Kevin Mawai is, he was a pretty good player, but he's very well known for his union stuff with the NFL union. The Steelers are in here. Cordell Stewart was the quarterback at the time. How interesting is that, huh? Jerome Bettis was the cover athlete, and he only got a 90 in the game, which is super interesting because, again, cover athletes usually get benefit of the doubt. But, yeah, he was in the game. Cordell Stewart, or not Cordell Stewart, Jerome Bettis, cover athlete for this game. This team, I do not think it has anybody from their 2004 team that won a Super Bowl. In fact, a lot of this is probably 2001 players who, famously they lost to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game when Tom Brady got his ankle hurt. And then the Steelers played against Drew Bledsoe. They've got some good players, though. Look at this. Greg Lloyd. This team, this is interesting because I know that when this game came out, the Packers were the defending Super Bowl champions. The season before, that Super Bowl before, the Cowboys were the defending champions. They played against the Steelers in the Super Bowl. So this is like a Steelers team that still has a lot of those players from that Super Bowl run probably on the team. Just looking at some of their players, they've got some pretty good ones here. They were definitely a pretty good team in terms of, in terms of being loaded. They had a pretty good roster. And of course, the last team is the Vikings. Like I said, 28 teams. This Vikings team is interesting because Randall Cunningham is on the team. He's the backup. Don't worry about that. He was the backup for the Vikings. He would end up the next year being the starter. Him and Jeff George would switch duties, and they went 15-1. So crazy to see him backing up. Robert Smith, I remember Robert Smith. I was a little closet Viking guy because they went 15-1, and Randy Moss was on the team. That was his rookie year. So Randy Moss will not be in this game. Chris Carter is, though. Chris Carter is definitely in this game, and he is one of the good. Well, like, he's a good player. He's a Hall of Fame receiver, just in general, but he's considered pretty good for this game. This team actually had 2 kickers and 2 punters. So whenever they did the rosters for this game, must have been early, maybe right before training camp. I don't know. It's interesting. John Randall's on this team. John Randall is a Hall of Fame undrafted player. He's one of the best players to ever play the game, and as far as being undrafted goes, you can't, like, nobody took a chance on him, and he ended up being a Hall of Famer. Really good player. Not a lot of big time names. So I think this is, like I said, this team. Let's see here. What did the Vikings do this season? Give me one sec. I think the Vikings did pretty decently, if I'm right. The Vikings were the 6th seed. They were 9-7 that year, so they definitely competed. In fact, 4 of the 5 teams in the NFC Central Division went on to be in the playoffs. 4 of the 5 teams. That division was stacked. And then, as you can see, we start over again. So, pretty interesting. Let's see. Let me see real quick. Sign free agents. Look at this. And we could change the team by pressing this. But, like, let's see. Who was free agenting at the time? There's not a whole lot of free agents. I would guess. Yeah. Here's the thing, though. This is an interesting part of this game. You had to create a player. You pick a picture. You can actually pick a picture. You have to create a first name. So we'll just call him. And we'll go with last name, and we'll just go And now we can change we can go in here and we can change their position, their number, their free agent pool. Change their mugshot photo to play people who made the game, which is cool. It's always fun to see that. But yeah, that's in the game. Isn't that crazy? Look at this stuff. Some guys with some really unique photos. You can go in here, you can change the height, change the weight. I love how there's aggressiveness. I'm a fanatic. And then if you hit the X button here. And I broke the game. Well, I just broke it. Alright, let's restart it. Let's try this again. We're going to try to get into a game here and see if the game works. If the game doesn't work, I'm going to be absolutely devastated. I can't believe I broke it. This is not the best way to stream this. Obviously, I would love to have a physical PlayStation with the discs and actually stream it from the console itself. But what can you do? I just want to play the game. It's loading. It is taking forever to load. There we go. Usually in the menus, though, it has like the information for you. So we can go in here. We can turn the music. We can turn the penalties off. We can change the weather for the stadium. I love how when they want instead of like choosing if it's windy or not while also having all this stuff, it's just like, oh, nope, we have wind. So we're gonna pick we'll pick random. Alright, we got a memory card option here. We're gonna go with the very short quarter here. We'll go with 2-minute quarters just because I want to get it in there. And we're gonna play. Alright, so here we go. So you use the right button, R1 to change that team, and you use the... Very weird controls. Up changes the away... So, just like the Maddens of old, they have, like, history rosters, you know, with, like, ratings and stuff like that. If you want to get to the special rosters, you press up for the aways and down for the homes. And you still have to push like R2 or R1 and L1 to change the team. So you can get like Super Bowl 2, Super Bowl 3, Super Bowl 4. Interestingly enough, where is it? Right here, this Super Bowl 7 Dolphins is the undefeated team. So they're in the game. You have the Super Bowl 20 Patriots. That is not the logo from the Super Bowl 20 Patriots, but interesting. What the fuck is people yelling about over there? That was the team that got blown out by them. So they're in the game. As you can see, they've got a couple Broncos teams in here. They got all the teams, which is interesting. This should go up. Yeah, so as you saw, Super Bowl 30. So there we go. We're gonna change that. You got all-star teams, which is back in this time they used to pick the best players at each position based on all-star rosters, and you got to pick them. So that was kind of cool. We'll go with interesting. I love that you can see the instead of having just an offense defense, you can actually see what kind of stats there are for each side. So maybe you want to be a running offense, you can pick a team with a very good running offense, pick a team with a good running defense. Patriots have a 90 passing. I kind of feel like that goes for the for the quarterback. I don't know why, but it feels like that. The Packers, you know, they have a 96. I think Brett Favre is the highest rated player in the game. Okay, so all the buttons seem to be working right now, so we'll play the Super Bowl from this year, and I believe, let me see real quick, because I want to see who the home team was in the Super Bowl. Let me see real quick here. I believe the Broncos are considered the home team in the Super Bowl. I'm trying to get a video image real quickly to see what the uniform they wore was. Give me 1 sec, because I want to see if they won. If they wore their home uniforms, I believe they did. Yeah. All right, so the Broncos did wear their home uniforms in this game, so we're going to pick the Super Bowl matchup here. We're going to press X here. And then, of course, you get this. You can choose which side. And we're going to pick the Super Bowl winners because they won the Super Bowl. Here we go. Preseason Green Bay versus the Broncos. Back then, you used to have to pick the teams and then pick which side you wanted to be on. Nowadays, it's much easier. You can actually just straight up pick these sides you want to play
Welcome
on.
to today's game between the Denver Broncos and the Green Bay Packers.
Of course, at this time, there is no
Green Bay Packers. Call heads or
there's no
tails.
ability to change your outfits or any of that kind of stuff. We're going to pick
Green Bay Packers. Kickoff or receive. The Packers will receive the kick. The Broncos will defend the North Goal.
So let's see here. Let me real quick check my controls. I need to see which one's X. So Z is A. I don't get why they call this AB. So let me see. I'm guessing that Z and X are A and B. So maybe this is circle, X is circle, Z is cross. Alright, so A is, let's go.
First and 10 on the 49-yard line.
Oh wait, no, I went with square.
25.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Second and long.
By the way, there is no look at the home menu here.
347. Hot. 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 Incomplete pass.
Braxton over here. So we're gonna look at triangle is A. Okay.
Third and long. 47. Hot.
Good thing is you don't have to. Sorry, if I get this off of my screen, please. What is this? Okay.
Fourth and 2 on the 42-yard line.
They won't let me pick. They won't let me pick a punt block or a pick.
Touchback.
Good job. Good job. Okay. Okay. All right. I got you. Let's try the run and shoot. We're gonna try the flooding.
First and 10 on the 20-yard line.
It's my first time playing offense, guys.
With the quarterback set.
Okay. Shot from the shotgun. Let's try the deep post.
Second and long. 335. Incomplete pass.
Flag on that. Somebody got there a little too early. Let's try the hook.
Third and long.
Special teams. Where's special teams? There we go. Square. We're gonna square.
Fourth and long on the 17-yard line. At the end of the first quarter, the Broncos, nothing. The Packers, nothing.
Try it again.
Fourth and long on the 17-yard line.
Look at the stadium.
First and 10 on the 17-yard line.
47.
Let's go back to the 3-4. Let's try Typhoon.
Second and long.
I might have already. Circle changes who you are.
Incomplete pass.
Nice job. Alright, we're gonna try Eagle here. Let's try the shift.
Third and long.
47.
So let's run into our special teams formation. Circle here. And we'll go with field goal.
Fourth and 6 on the 13-yard line.
Green 39. Blue 35. Hot.
The field goal is good. The Packers 3, the Broncos nothing.
It's so weird to not listen to people. Moves for like stick arms and spins and stuff. I don't know how to use them. Try the option.
First and 10 on the 17-yard line.
Red 47. Hot.
Set point with the quarterback set.
No.
Second and long.
Let's try this. We're gonna hit Shannon Sharp here.
Green 47. Hot.
Incomplete pass.
Wow, dude, you gotta make a play for that. I don't blame him.
Third and long.
Red 47. Hot.
Incomplete pass.
I took it. You know what? I'm going for it. I have not been successful all day, but why the hell not?
Fourth and long on the 10-yard line.
Blue 35. Red 47.
Incomplete pass.
Well, I turned it over. Anyway, I suck at this game.
First and 10 on the 10-yard line. Touchdown Packers.
I remember a lot of this when you have something like this, you just press the button.
The extra point is good. The Packers 10, the Broncos nothing.
try a sweep. Let's
First
try
and
to throw
10
a bit of a
on the
sense.
5-yard line. First down, Terrell Davis with a 16-yard run. Timeout Broncos. They have 2 timeouts remaining.
There we go. I know I don't have a whole lot of time.
First and 10 on the 21-yard line.
Red 25. Green 47. Hot. Blue 47. Hot.
Timeout Broncos. They have 1 timeout remaining.
Obviously, did not work out as well as I wanted it to. Let's go with the
Second and
defense.
7.
Red 35. Hot. Hot.
Incomplete pass.
That did not work out the way I wanted it to. And more time with the ball, so it's not like I haven't had the ball. Although I do like the newer camera angles, I kind of like this like real close. It gives you a little bit of a better.
First and 10 on the 22-yard line.
Blockers a little bit better.
Touchdown Packers.
Man, that sucks. That sucks. I had that.
Green 35. Red 25.
The extra point is good. The Packers 17. The Broncos nothing.
On the first run of the second half.
First and 10 on the 21-yard line.
Blue 47.
With the quarterback set.
I don't have as much time as I would like to try to run some of these plays.
Second and long.
It's really
Red
hard to like.
Incomplete pass.
Catch the. Oh my gosh, this is one of those things. You have to press triangle to catch.
Third and long.
You got to press triangle to catch.
Blue 47.
Incomplete pass. Fourth and long on the 4-yard line.
Red.
Incomplete pass.
Oh wow. And I just lost my screen. Well, needless to say, you see this? They have this kind of stuff in there, which is kind of cool. This is back in the day when you used to have to press triangle for everything. So, I'm going to quit out. I need to get my controller to work with this game properly. I don't know what the issue is there. If I can, it should work. try this again once it loads in. Let's see if I can get my controller to actually run with it. Well, I know that square's working. Trying really hard to get this thing set up properly. Well, I got the sticks to work, right? Okay. It's not the controller, I don't think. Yeah, because it's recognizing... Okay. I got it to work now. Oh, alright. Let's try this again. Let's try this again. Okay. We'll try this one more time. I'm actually going to try it with a controller this time. See if the controller actually works. That might be helpful, right? I do have to use the D-pad.
Welcome to today's game between the Denver Broncos and the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers, call heads or tails. Denver Broncos, kickoff or receive. The Packers will receive the kick. The Broncos will defend the north goal. First and 10 on the 46-yard line.
Blue 25. Hot.
Second and 1.
There's no like pre-mapping, so you can't see what the defense is doing.
Third and 3.
Green 35. Hot.
First down, Edgar Pettit with an 8-yard run. First and 10 on the 38-yard line.
Blue 25. Red 47.
8-yard gain on the run. Second and 2.
Green 47. Hot.
Nice. Let's
3rd and 3.
Red 47. Green 25. Hot.
4th and 1 on the 29-yard line.
Blue 47. Red 47. Hot.
The field goal is good. The Packers 3, the Broncos nothing. At the end of the first quarter, the Packers 3, the Broncos nothing.
Let's try this again.
Blue 35. Hot.
Incomplete pass.
Passing is not easy.
2nd and 10.
Passing is definitely not easy in this game.
Red 35. Hot.
With the quarterback set. 3rd and long.
Can we please...
Blue 35. Hot. Red 35. Hot. 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 Hot.
First down. Terrell Davis. 27-yard gain on the pass.
What a run after the catch. That's what I'm talking about.
1st and 10 on the 44-yard line.
Green 35. Blue 35. Hot. 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 Hot.
Fumble. With the tackle. Second and long.
Red 25. Hot.
Incomplete pass.
Oh, James Sharp trying. He trying. Give him credit. He trying.
3rd and long.
Let's try this.
Green 35. Hot.
I don't want to
4th and 7
Not yet.
on the 46-yard line.
Blue 35. Hot. 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 Hot.
Incomplete pass.
Oh, man. I thought I had him. Maybe I did.
1st and 10 on the 46-yard line.
Red 35. Hot. Hot.
Incomplete pass.
Passing is not easy in this game, huh? Well, at least they get the ball back. With the 2-minute quarters, man, it's going by very fast.
With the return. 1st and 10 on the 24-yard line. Incomplete pass.
Let me see something. It won't. No, it won't. I don't think it will. I think the controls are supposed to be easier.
2nd and 10.
Green 25. Hot.
Incomplete pass.
Wow, what is going on here?
3rd and 10.
Blue 25. Hot. Red 35. Hot.
Incomplete pass. 2nd and 10.
Green 47. Hot.
Third and 2. Let's go with the trips formation.
Third and 2.
Red 25. Hot.
First down. Terrell Davis with a 14-yard run.
Let's go with the reverse.
First and 10
I wanna see how
on the
reverse works in
23-yard
this game.
line.
This has got to be gone.
Green 47. Hot.
With the tackle. Second and 9.
Blue 25. Hot.
At the end of the third quarter, the Packers 3, the Broncos nothing. Third and 2. With the tackle.
Ooh, you know what? Let's go for it. Let's go with
4th and 2 on the 16-yard line.
Red 47. Hot. Green.
First down. Shannon Sharp. 11-yard gain on the pass. First and goal on the 5-yard line.
Red 47. Blue 25.
Loss on the play. Second and goal.
Red 47. Blue 25. Hot.
With the tackle. Third and goal.
Red 25.
Timeout Broncos. They have 2 timeouts remaining.
Let's go. Let's go with the toss play.
4th and goal
Let's go with
on the
the
1-yard
toss
line.
Green 35. Hot.
Touchdown Broncos.
That's what I'm talking about. And we're going to kick the field goal.
Blue 35. Hot.
The extra point is no good. The Broncos 6, the Packers 3.
That meter moves awfully quick.
First and 10 on the 49-yard line.
Green 25. Hot.
Pass interference on the defense.
Are you
First and
serious
10
right now?
on the 37-yard line.
Blue 25. Hot. Hot.
18-yard gain on the pass. Final score, the Broncos 6, The Packers 3.
Interesting. And then you get a loading screen with monochrome cheerleaders. That's what you get for winning the game. 1997, guys, is a little bit different year. I'd like to see, I think there's cheat codes out there that would make it possible to see every one of those, but I'm not going to do that because what the hell is the point? But I do like that it's in the game. At the time, that would have seemed really, really cool and really, really different, you know, to have that level of stuff in there. It would have been cool. Let me see here. R2 is juke, L2 is advance. You got the 2 stiff arms. You've got X is your speed burst, circles a spin, squares a dive, triangles catch. And then it's same thing on offense, on defense, in a way. Wow, interesting. What is? Oh. Okay, so let me see real quick because I want to see a season mode real quick. We'll change our team. We'll just pick the Pats. Oh, okay. Well, I guess I figured that out. So we go into season report. We can see our schedule. Interesting. So the Chargers at the Colts, Jets, Bears, bye week. Okay. They do play the Packers. We've got standings. Okay. Look at that. Pro Bowl. You even got Pro Bowl voting. Playoff reports. Interesting. Wow. Pretty, You've got some passing stats. You can create a player in here. You can sign a free agent. You can look at the whole team roster. We can go to draft. Oh! They have a fantasy draft mode in here. So if you want to draft, say you press circle, you mark that team, now you can pick in your draft spot. Okay. And then you use the D-pads to toggle different positions. Interesting. Yeah, I want to quit the draft. Why the fuck would I want to draft? We got setup down here, which changes the level. And of course, you can save to a memory card if you really want to. So interesting. Alright guys, so I'm gonna call it a stream though. Definitely cool game for back in the day. Interesting to look at the rosters and see what was going on. Interesting to see everything in this game. So I'm gonna call it a game though, and we'll go back and we'll be handling it then. But in the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Give it all the things that everybody keeps telling you about their videos. But thank you very much for watching, and